Hello, everyone. Welcome to our October Champions Call. Hope you're doing well wherever you're from. If it's upcoming fall, like it is here in the Seattle area, then hope you're, getting warm and cozy as we head towards the holidays. So let's bring our content up for today. Alrighty, so of course today's our champions call. This is our champions spam call, and we had one earlier this morning in our AMAM. And of course, with any sort of event, either online, hybrid, in person, we have an event code of conduct. And so this is just a slide talking about how we hope everyone in the audience is becoming welcoming and becoming a great person, so that you can have a good environment where everyone is open. It's a safe discussion. All right, so next for our agenda, we have our announcements. I'm going to go over some announcements. I'm going to go over some top Microsoft 365 updates. And then our main topic today, we have our highly requested Microsoft lists with Mark and Nate today from the product team. And of course, lastly, your open discussion forum. If you are new to our calls today, make sure you check out that aka.ms/become a champion so that you can join us, be part of our champions community, and get all the top resources that come with the membership. Alrighty, so this is our updated call format. If you're joining us new, we are having this updated call format where we're doing live streaming to the Microsoft Tech community and, of course, Microsoft Community Learning YouTube channel. So the join links of these calls are the same as before, as shown above here in this slide, and is the same times at the fourth Tuesday of every month at 8:05 and 5:05 Pacific time. And so if you wanted to join us for open discussion at the end of the call, right now, if you're watching the tech community, you can leave your comments by the tech community page. But of course, you can join us live. We'll have we'll have a banner as Mark and I go through the call today, so where you can join us live. And then as a reminder, all our presentations for these PowerPoints are available to our membership folks. So remember earlier, right here, if you can go to aka.ms/mem365 champions, these will be available after the call ends. Alrighty, next. So, Mark, do you mind taking over right now? I believe my next slide is kind of frozen right now.
Yeah, let's see. Let's get you to, I think you were aiming for Mondays at Microsoft.
Correct.
You are on, and we see, it just keeps advancing. So I'll try to keep it on Mondays at Microsoft. I'll follow your lead.
Okay. Yeah, if you don't mind, do you mind taking over, going over the slide?
Yeah, no worries. So we have a recurring show. It's bi-weekly with Caruana Gatimu and Heather Cook. It's called Mondays at Microsoft, and it covers a lot of things from product updates, event and community updates, and you can expect news from Microsoft, from outside of Microsoft. We work with a lot of partners and variety of events that you can attend. There's always a great events section like there is within this call towards the end, where they highlight where it is that Microsoft is leaning in and will be present working with MVPs and community leaders. But expect it's a really great conversation between Caruana and Heather to keep you up to date on everything that's important to the Microsoft world, the community, and of course, always promoting community love. They always give out that. Next item is the Microsoft Global Community Initiative. This is really for those that are wanting to train the trainer. If you've got an event or you want to host an event, or you're already doing all of that and you want best practices, either you sharing it back to the community or vice versa, getting best practices and tips, you can join the MGCI movement. Go to aka.ms/MGCI. You'll see a way to sign up. They have monthly calls just like this one. It's a community call with people that are like-minded, putting on events, wanting to be either putting on smaller events in their area or broader events, online webinars that are either an hour or day long. The best practices behind the materials to get the word out, to host the event, to attract speakers, and to, of course, put on a great post event is always very important. So you'll get a lot of great people with like-minded activities, and it's a really great group that has been growing nicely month over month. Next, we have the Community Skills Challenge. It really is a chance for you to build your skills that are important to how you are a part of the community. Things that you've never learned that might be something that's new skill for yourself, or is something that you're working on from an adoption perspective to be able to roll out and engage with your internal communities. The skills challenge is really easy to get to. Just go to aka.ms/community skills. And from there, you'll see how not only can you get a badge, but how you can grow and learn. And then, of course, share back with others. Sharing is caring, and the community is always about that. Next, we've got what is the blood of one of our members on this call, the lifeblood, I should say. And I certainly have taken advantage of being a part of this from a product perspective, but it's adoption.microsoft.com. And I will tell you, if you've not visited adoption.microsoft.com, you are letting Jesse know that you just haven't heard about it yet. So now you've heard about it, type it in. It's a great destination. There's a lot of great product breakdowns. And gosh, now that Jesse's on screen, I'm just going to let her tell you a little bit about adoption.microsoft.
Thanks so much, Mark.
Friendly name, AMC.
Yeah. AMC is, we love our acronyms here at Microsoft, but life's blood indeed. And I like that my background's red right now. So adoption.microsoft.com, I am the content manager and the curator across the entire website. And I bring updates on some of the highlights that we've done since the last time we talked. So it's been a month and there are way more updates than what you see here. But here are some of the highlights that I wanted to tease out. Microsoft AI Tour is going on right now. It started last month and it is, I know today they were in Paris and then tomorrow they're in Berlin, 60 plus countries and cities around the world. And it's a free 1-day workshop, basically multiple sessions. So sign up, check it out. But we have a resources tour page there with links directly to the assets that are being shared, the decks, the presentations, the recordings, and any of the training materials that are leave behind. So go check it out. We also have a really cool behind the scenes video from the kickoff event in Mexico City. So Copilot Scenario Library, I hope you've been using this, aka.ms/copilot/scenario library. Just got an update recently. We added BizChat to it. But something I forgot to mention this morning in our earlier call was that we also added industry. So industry scenarios are in there now. So go check it out. Take a look at it. We'll put the link is on the screen there and let us know what you think. We also made multiple updates to the Microsoft List microsite on AMC. Very timely, of course, because with our special guests today. So go check that out. New blog posts, new video, updated images, and all that stuff. We also extended the SharePoint Premium trial, updated that page as well. So take a look at that. It's been extended to June of next year. So if you haven't had a chance to go try it out, now's your chance. It's a free trial. Go check it out. We also launched the Microsoft 365 Copilot GCC page. Now I know we don't always have the best resources for our government customers, but I'm hoping this will help you enable your users and figure out if this makes sense for you and kind of show you how to deploy and how to implement. Let us know if you like that or if you're missing anything. Lastly, I want to call out, we have new sessions for the Modern Work Customer Hub. So these are ILTs, they're instructor-led trainings, webinars, and we've had them for Copilot. They're on demand now, but we have new ones for Copilot. Extensibility is one of the topics we cover, but there's also other topics like Teams Phone. So it's not always everything Copilot. So Teams is still very much a priority around here. And so Teams Phone has new sessions out there. As always, you can read our release notes on the website, adoption.microsoft.com, or you can subscribe to the RSS feed. And thanks so much. Tiffany, back to you.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Jesse, for going over AMC updates, and thank you so much, Mark, for going over our top announcements. Alrighty, so of course, we're going to go over our top Microsoft 365 updates. So first, if you're an SMB, a small medium business, we do have an upcoming webinar where you can register here, and we're going to put up that link for you. So this webinar is going to be on October 31st from 9 to 10 a.m. Pacific time, where it's going to be with our lovely friends Gabe Ho and Caleb Patterson from the product marketing team. But essentially, it's going to go over the Forrester total economic impact study for a Microsoft 365 Copilot for SMBs. And so this is a good opportunity if you're an SMB to learn about just a significant business value and returns on investment that can be achieved if you use Copilot and other AI. Next, this is our update for Microsoft Teams. I'm super excited about this because this is our shared tab and chat. A lot of times when I'm sharing something with, for example, with Jesse, or Jesse shares something with me from months ago, for example, like a budget sheet, I'm having to search Teams and messages. It takes me maybe a good 10, 15 minutes sometimes to just look for that one link that she shared that's super helpful months ago. But now we're going to have a shared tab in one-on-one and in group chat. And so the shared tab replaced the files tab and consolidates files and links that were sent, and making it even easier. You're going to be able to filter by keyword. So even in that list of resources that was shared with you, you're going to be able to filter by keyword so you can find that one link that you're looking for. Again, there is no sort of actions that you need to do to enact this change. It's going to be automatic, but just please go try it out. I feel like it's already helped me save tons of time already. Alrighty, next, a planner update. For many of you that I know are planner fans out there in the Champions community, the labels column is now in grid view. So now in grid view, you're going to be able to label your file or your task a certain color, for example, pink, blue, or a certain customizable name that you choose for it. And again, this is just making it easier for you. So even if you're a basic plan in the planner, you're going to be able to add the label for any task and just making it easier for you to granularly organize your tasks and in your plan. Last but not least, in Viva Amplify, we have enhancements to Viva Amplify Analytics. So I'm excited to announce the availability of these new abilities. And so these include reports of displaying audience count and percentages. So you're going to be able to know granularly how many audiences per those different areas of Viva Amplify that you use. Also user signals and data graphs, as well as reactions. So how many positive, negative, neutral reactions you've had. There's going to be many more updates that are in this link right here. So feel free to check out ak.ms/viva/amplify analytics updates. Alrighty, so before I'm going to hand it over to our guest today, I do want to remind everyone that if you want to come on and join us live, you can either drop your questions in the Driving Adoption event page, or you can visit our link right here, ak.ms/m365 champion call/ask. We're going to be going to a green room, and then we'll pull you in to ask your live question. All right. Well, without further ado, I'm going to bring on Mark. Mark, come back on, and we're going to go over lists today. Hi, Mark. Thanks for covering for me earlier.
Absolutely. No problem, Tiffany. And thanks for having Nate and I. It's always a pleasure to talk about Microsoft Lists, and it's always fun to share what's new with Microsoft Lists. It is one of my favorite applications in Microsoft 365. And we want to make sure you know what it is and then see what's been rolling out or what's rolling out soon. Nate's got a few things that are a little bit more roadmappy, but pretty close to coming soon. So I think you'll be pretty excited to see that. So on our slides, we just wanted to give you a little grounding on kind of the question of what is Microsoft Lists. It is a smart information tracking app within Microsoft 365. You will see it in the demo how you get there, but it is a standalone application, but it also brings forward a lot of the innovation from the past years of SharePoint lists. Lists are just lists, and lists are lists. So if you've been working with SharePoint and lists for quite some time, this is just a new user interface that makes them more simple, more flexible, and smart. So we've done a lot to increase the usability, making it easier for you to work with lists, to make them work for you is where it starts to get into the smart realm, where you can do things in a very visual fashion, create the views that you want, filter your lists in ways that make sense, and colorize them so that when you look at your list, you know easily what the status of something is something trending in the right direction, or does something need to call to your attention? Which gets to the flexible part. These lists are made to work for you in the sense of how you like to work and track your information. Information can be anything from a simple list of contacts of people that you met at an event. They come, you contact them, and then the list maybe goes, or something that's more durable that's attached to a real business process that can be simple notifications or a very higher end, connecting to something like Power Automate. There's a whole range of how you can use Microsoft Lists. There's maybe a little learning curve if you've never used them, but over time, there's been a lot of work to make it so it's a lot more accessible to everybody, especially to anybody. Even if you don't have a real deep skill set of SharePoint, List has a very smaller and lower barrier to entry, which makes it a lot easier to see it in action. So we've got 2 demo sequences for you. One is with me and one is coming up with Nate. So we want to show you a little bit of how the product works, and I'm going to orient you around just to see what you're seeing here. I have it in full screen mode, so it looks a little bit more like a desktop application, but I'm in Microsoft 365 and I clicked on the lists icon, which, as beautiful as it is, truly shines through when you start using the product. So if you click lists, you'll go to what we call List Home, which you see here. And I'm going to navigate and show you just a few lists that I have so that you can see what they look like in action. And to touch on a meta point, this first list that I'm clicking into is actually one that we use a lot on our team to see what it is that we're working on. Different community calls, different webinars, different blog posts, and we work with a lot of different people inside and out of our team and also outside of Microsoft. So it's a way for us to keep track of all the things that we're doing from an outbound perspective to make noise about Microsoft products and keep the community engaged and all of that. To give you a real clear example, and I'm going to change this one live because after this call, we will have had and completed this call. This is the call that we're on right now. It's the Microsoft 365 Champions call for October 2024. You can see that it's in a ready to publish state, but I'm going to make Jesse and Tiffany happy because we can make this now published. So I've just actively changed the status. I can do that because I'm a member of this list. But you can see all the things that we tracked, which was the graphic that we used for the YouTube video, the graphic that we used for social, different links that we're tracking so that it's easier for different team members who are messaging or actually engaging, like we invited Nate for this call. And we can list in who are the authors or who are the owners, speakers, and we track everything in one list item so that as we get closer to the date, like today, everybody's in sync and everybody's working together. Not only can we have the different list items, but we have different ways of visualizing. So this same list, if I wanted to just see it in a really visual fashion, we have what we call gallery view. It's a really simple view to create, and you can make choices of what does this gallery view look like. If you notice, it carries a little bit more of a minimalistic approach to the information, even though it's all there behind the scenes. And if I scroll down, you'll see these are all the things that we've recently published. So there have been a lot of things that our team has been working on, and I'll just pick one here where we see one of the calls that we mentioned earlier, the Mondays at Microsoft. This was episode 30, and if I click into it, you'll see it's the same level of detail, but it was easy for me to find because I could see that graphic. I could see that it was episode 30. That's the one I'm looking for, and I can jump right into it. Remember, same list, different way to visualize. Another really helpful view, and often was requested now in product and very functional, is this calendar view. And right here, you can see I'm seeing it month to month. I can go forwards and backwards. I can see what's coming up. I can see what we've done in the past. And I can easily see where we have maybe some capacity planning issues, especially if I look forward, where, oh, no, this seems like it's okay because we have a lot of different people engaged. Or if I know somebody like we're working with now, Aaron, is scheduled for multiple calls and they're overlapping, that would give me a good indication. That's going to be a busy day and we need to maybe bring in our colleague Daniel to help out. But we have all of these multiple views and different ways to visualize your content. And of course, you can always see all your items and pivot to your heart's content. I'm going to jump to one other example so you can see what is a little bit more of an external call for content. And this is one where we have it wired up to an external form that people can submit to us based on their community assets or their different events where we can help them evangelize their content. And I'll go into the pivot here that says, here are all the requests that have come in externally that have been published. And I'll show you one recently just so you can see what it is that this list looks like. But if you note down here, this is an external call for content for us to help evangelize. And we've done this for about 170 pieces of content. And so it's a really nice workflow that we have set up. It's a very simple form to fill out. One of our event producers that we work with, David Wilhelm, often uses it, submits us with some new ideas, and gives us a sense of what he would like to have amplified through our community channels. So another great use for lists, easy to bring in that content from external. David is not a Microsoft employee. We work with him a lot, and we have a mechanism where he can easily contribute get our attention with some of his new content. But what I really want to show you is a new feature, and then I'll hand over to Nate to show you another coming very new feature. And I'm going to put this in upcoming view so that you can see my most used view is what is coming up. But what's most helpful is when we have requests from other teams, we have a simple form that they can fill out internally. Similar how we have an external form, this is an internal form, and it's showing you the new native internal form feature within Microsoft List. So there's no extra technology that's required. You can create multiple forms on a list. You see I have two here, one that Aaron created and one that I have created or last updated. And this is one where I can see it from a design perspective, what it is that I want this to say. I can add additional context. So this is the name of the list. The little extra bonus points if you know which icon this is, I just threw that in there. You can have graphics updated. And then you choose what it is that you want to collect as information from your submitter, the person that's requesting support. And if you notice, it's only a subset of the content that we actually track across the list. It's the information that you see here. I'll fill it out once I show you how to share it. But this is in design phase. I can add new fields like I'm creating a new column in the list, and I can do that pretty easily. I can also make other choices. If I collapse this, you'll see that I can change the theme. Right now it's on this purple theme. You can have a green theme. You can have a little bit of a gradient theme and a little bit more of an orange one. I think this one looks nice. And you can have a custom message after somebody submits a list item. This one just says, your request is now in the queue. I just wrote that to make it clear what it is that happened after it was submitted. You can add more details, and you can even have something that might be actionable after that. If I want to, I can actually then notify me, which I think is a really helpful thing. That just means once there's a list item submitted, I would get notified. And that's always helpful from a tracking perspective. So, but here's where the real beauty comes in. I'm going to copy this link and imagine I have this as a tweet that I put out. I could have this as, as an internal posting, not a tweet, that's public. But I could have this on Viva Engage. I could have this in my email signature for internal users. But I'm just going to go in and open up a new browser so you can see what this looks like when somebody receives this or clicks on the link for your form. It is just the form. And I'll fill it out really quickly so you can see the way that the different fields come through. This is when the draft is due. Then I want to submit it and have it public by the 30th, which is a little aggressive, but that's okay. I can choose from the different choice fields of what this is. Let's say this is going to be an event guide. And then I'll put in an owner as myself, a little recursive because I'll get an alert about what I submitted. And then we'll give Aaron a little bit more work to do and make this a live broadcast and let him know that this is for an external broadcast. Here's where the beauty is. I'm going to click submit. And imagine if I'm not Mark, I've submitted my request. I've gotten this unique message based on what I had typed in that field. And I don't overexpose my list. It's just now a new list item that's been submitted. It's available to anybody that's a member or owner of a list. But if they're not a member of an owner, they can, of course, submit into the list, but they can't access the full list like you see here. So it helps with oversharing. It helps with keeping people focused on just what it is that the task at hand is to ask for support, not ask how to put it into this queue and get a little bit lost maybe in doing so. So that is the new Forms experience. You'll see this. This is fully rolled out. Go to any list. You'll see it up here, Forms. If you don't see anything that's an existing form, just click New Form and get started today. That is my demo. Nate, I want to tee you up so you can come on and show them a little bit more about some of the new features that are coming from an approvals perspective.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mark. Hello, everybody. My name is Nate Tennant. I lead our business app and automation space for both SharePoint and Lists, which includes native features in SharePoint and Lists, as well as our integrations with Power Platform. And today we're going to talk about our approvals integration, and we'll start with a little bit of history and then show some new features that are coming out as we speak. I'm going to jump back to the slides there. Mark, thank you. So in two templates, if you go from any of your SharePoint sites and you say create new list, you see our first party template offerings, you see travel requests with approvals and content scheduler with approvals. Those have been out for about a year, a little bit longer, and you get this nice handy approval status column as you go in and track your various requests. And what we're bringing to you now is the same capability, but making that available on any existing list. So no longer do you have to start from one of those two templates. You can take your existing business process and go ahead and add the approvals integration, which is backed by Teams and Power Platform, and a really simple toggle for you or your users to go and get started to use this. Let's jump over to a quick demo to see it in action. I have my device tracking list that I use with my team. Someone submits a new request for a laptop. And in the past, I would have had to go through and kind of manually review these, email, and keep track of them. What I'm going to do now is go to the Automate dropdown. I'm going to select Configure Approvals. Simple toggle gives me some info about the approval status that will come into my view. And after a quick refresh, you'll see that new column show up. And if I go ahead right from SharePoint, I can say, just for the sake of this demo, I'm going to put myself as the approver so we don't have to switch accounts. And if I had multiple people here, I could choose, do I want just one person or all of them to be required to consider the approval complete? And I'll just put a little note to please approve. And I go ahead and submit. And usually pretty quick, within just a few seconds, you'll see this request create and show up right in the SharePoint metadata, taking slightly longer. There it goes. And I can go ahead and click on this pill. I'll see all of the details, what I need to do. But let's say I'm someone who works a lot in Teams and I want to go over to my approvals app. I'll get the same approvals notification there with a link back to the information that's in SharePoint. So I could go ahead, approve, reject, cancel from here. But let's say I want to kind of keep within my SharePoint world. I'm going to go ahead and just approve directly from my list. Again, I'm going to add a quick note and go ahead and say this item's approved. You'll see that status pill update to kind of the green approved state. Now, what's cool is, let's say I have a request, but I go in and the price is gone up to, let's say 1,000, not 10,000. And I try and submit that. It's going to tell me there's already been an approval either in flight or completed on this item. And if that were to change the metadata or properties of the item, we would go ahead and cancel that request because the nature of the request has changed. I don't want to do that. So let's go ahead and go back. You can see it reverts to my $948 price. So if I wanted to remove approvals for some reason, I'd go back and I'd do my simple toggle. I could turn those off. Just a couple other things to note. There is the approval status column that you see here. There are a couple other kind of related metadata fields that you'll see as you explore the feature, like approval created, who's responded, who's the listed approver. So super excited to get this in the hands of more lists in SharePoint or the Lists app directly. This has been in TR or targeted release for a little bit and starting to roll out kind of GA worldwide as we speak. And one last thing, if we jump back to the slides here, we're really excited about bringing more of the kind of Power Platform relationships into SharePoint and Teams. And so later this calendar year, early next year, you'll start to see this exact same functionality that I showed on lists show up in document libraries. Tons of powerful and important business process scenarios that you can run kind of off of your existing doc libraries without having to go out and create a flow. Of course, if you need more complexity, you can always go build that integration and use kind of the full Power Automate capabilities as well. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mark.
Don't go too far, Nate. I thought for a second we could cover a couple of questions that had come in. I want to remind everybody what you see at the bottom of the screen. If you would like to join us and make this a two-way discussion, we encourage you to put your comments or questions in the tech community on the event page, but we also invite you to join us here on screen. We would love to chat, hear your question firsthand or your comment. If you have a great list story or even a great document library story, as you heard, don't forget, you can join us live just by hitting that link that you'll see every once in a while on screen to let you know how. It's very easy. You just got to hit the link and you'll be brought into what we call the green room. And then you can join Nate and I, Tiffany and Jesse, and we would love to hear from you. I thought just to give a little grounding to what both Nate and I were showing you, you noticed that I was in the Microsoft List user interface. And Nate, when he was showing you some of the new approvals capability, was in the SharePoint user interface. The basis of it is it's all stored in SharePoint. From a management perspective, it's just a list. These capabilities are coming to SharePoint, to Microsoft Lists, and even within Microsoft Teams, you will see these same capabilities, especially the approvals notion of going to the approvals app, which is more than lists, but also a service that's integrated across Microsoft 365 when you think of review and approvals. The other thing that Nate and I wanted to make sure you know is there is value in when you need more horsepower, the integration work that we've done with the Power Platform. That's both for forms with Power Apps, that's for workflow in Power Automate, and we even do some visualization with Power BI. But specific to what Nate was showing you, if you have something that is just a simple review and approval, absolutely take advantage of this capability, because it will save you a lot of getting it set up and integrated work that you might do on your own. But if you need something that's going to be a little bit more of a complex workflow, not just with a review and approval or notifications, but something that's maybe grabbing data from an additional source, updating your list at a certain period in time, sending out notifications, to a big broad alias, or doing a lot of crazy things you can do with Power Automate. We highly support the integration with Power Automate, and it's that spectrum of if you need it, we have it. But if you don't, or now with some of these capabilities, you don't have to build what is now built in. Last thing I'll just point out is that value that you see coming to the document library capabilities with approvals is really based on the fact that document libraries are built on the backbone of lists. So if you think of columns and rows and the added feature of having a document associated to that list item, at the base level, that is what a document library is. And it's really great to see the value of that underpinning. What you can do in lists, you can also do in libraries, and that's really the goal of the team. So let's go through a couple questions I think that we saw coming through or often top of mind when covering this. But is there a recommended way, Nate, of people handling past approval edits or working with the history of approvals?
Yeah, the primary function of the kind of notifying the person making the edit today is to deter those kind of unintentional edits. We don't have yet a way where you would kind of notify someone before that happens or as it's happening, but that same exact approval status will get matched in Teams. So if you're working in either place, you would be able to see like something has changed on this approval from what it was previously submitted.
Okay. All right. The next question is, can the approval feature be automated based on conditions? And the example that they gave is if the type of the event is, let's say in quotes, webinar, always send to a specific person, versus if it's noted as a different content type or a different choice that somebody chooses, send to a different person.
Yeah, not in this V1 that we're talking about today, but it's absolutely something we've heard, and many customers are considering, beyond the manual approval submitting to someone, being able to predefine those, send those automatically. So some of those are still flow scenarios in this first version, but absolutely something we want to go and keep enabling as we grow and enable more of this integration.
That's great. I know that the feature that we have where it's really a rule that you can set might get you about halfway there. So if you have something that based on a status change or the change of some content type, notify X person, you can track who you want that notification to go as a piece of metadata on that list item. So let's say an owner is listed as Mark Cashman, and contact owner when certain field status changes. So if it's a simple notification that you're looking for, you can do that and look for in the future what Nate was describing. All right. Another question. This one I think is of anybody that's used Power Automate that would be able to solve this. I think we have a really nice approach. Does the new list approval support serial and parallel approvals? And this might be like in the multiverse of Microsoft lists.
Yeah, great question. Another one that comes up a lot, in the team side of the house already supports kind of the sequential. So send to Nate, then Mark, then Jesse. On SharePoint, we are still in this first version looking at that send to multiple people and then allow either just one of multiple to complete the approval or require all. So not quite staged in sequential yet, but another one we'll look to kind of adapt in similar to how the Teams approvals app uses today.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I just want to give a quick shout out, Hal, who joined us from this morning. I just have to say hello in Tucson, where I grew up. I hope that you're getting still the beautiful fall weather that hangs on a little bit longer in Arizona. There's also a question from Carlos on topic for Microsoft Lists, but not about approvals. But is there any update to the Lists app on iPad OS? I have a couple of lookup columns, but from the mobile app, I cannot add info. The answer to your question, Carlos, is there are always updates coming to the Lists app for iOS, which would be applicable to iPhone and iPad. It's the same code base as far as how we release it. And the team is working on a couple of work items for what we can now do in mobile. And there's even some unique capabilities within the mobile app that you can't do from desktop that they're working on to enable through the Edge browser. But to answer your question most directly, the lookup column is a great feature, but it also adds a little complexity in terms of how and what you can do when you're on a singular device. And in general, going from different lists if they're in or outside of the different site that you're looking on. But the lookup column at this stage is not one that's fully supported in mobile, but it is one that has the base functionality that we would like to enable so that if you have a lookup column in your lists and you want it to function as you would expect like you would in the web, that is an area of investment. We don't have a specific time frame to share, but it is one of those areas where mobile maybe is a little bit of a second cousin to what you can do in the web. Anything else that you saw, or Tiffany, Jesse, before we move on? I know we had similar questions from this morning. Oh, there's a general list question. Sorry. I see it. I think we'll take the one that we see there from Jesse in chat. Says, general list question. How do you manage lists with thousands, if not tens of thousands of records? We have found that the list becomes unstable after about 10,000 records. I'll give a base answer, and Nate, you can pile on, especially if you've been doing anything that's new testing around list interactions with what the approvals app and service requires. But there is a base limit, which is a pretty large number as far as how many list items you can have per list, and that's 30 million. But where we see, some of the realities of how you can, as an individual, manage your lists and basically return a subset of however many you have in there. And that often is around 20 to 50,000 items. And it's all based on what we do on the service end, which is we try to index your lists in a smart fashion that gives a lot of the common views an already prepared index for how you want to visualize your lists based on your columns and based on the list with structure that you have, the list schema. On top of that, similar to how you saw me create a number of different lists views, you can create a lot of list views that are specific to what you're trying to accomplish. So let's say you have a 20,000 item list and they're all records that are maybe tickets in a system or tracking issues on site, broken pipes and things that are foundational to how you might manage a maintenance record. If you have those items and you have different ways of describing whether they've been assessed, if they need to have somebody visit on site, something that's been cleared, or maybe is deferred to somebody who's an external partner because of overload and capacity planning, the more that you can create different views so you can see just a subset of information. So that, let's say I want to see all unassigned list items and then go in and triage, starting to assign them based on when they were submitted. I could pivot based on unassigned and the date range. And for me, I would narrow down, let's say, going from 20,000 records, and maybe only 200 or 300 of them are actually in that state of not yet being assigned. I could pivot down. I could certainly know that all of the list items are there. And then it makes it more tenable for me to both page through and navigate as I triage, and also for the list itself to be able to resolve in the browser efficiently. So it's always top of mind in terms of the back end to make lists performant, both from the user interface and on the service side. And there's always work that we need to do so that we can reach those higher capacity numbers and have it be a good experience for you as an end user. But I hope it gives you a little window into some of the things that we've done on your behalf for everyone and things that you can do proactively to create those views and manage something that's a little bit more of a subset of content, knowing that the full list is there, but really what you need to work with is just the smaller number of items. All right, Tiffany, back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you so much, Nate. Let's pull up our content. Alrighty. Well, thank you so much, Mark and Nate, for going through Microsoft List. It was highly requested in our champions community, so I really appreciate that. Let's bring up our PowerPoint content. So yes, this is our upcoming community events. Tomorrow, October 23rd, we have a D365 event in Stockholm, Sweden. And then, of course, we have our community days. We have 2 coming up in this month, October 26th in Montreal, Canada, and on October 31st on Halloween, if you celebrate it, and community days in Mexico City. That one's held by a good friend, David Levier, down there in Mexico City. And then November 1st, AI Community Conference in Houston, Texas. And then November 11th to 15th, TechCon Dallas. I believe that was part of the Mark's little demo earlier. He talked about David Wilhelm hosting the TechCon 365 series. So Mark, whom you saw earlier, Josh Leperati on my team, we're both going to be in TechCon 365 Dallas. So make sure you check out the community booth, as well as go meet Mark and Josh in person. They're super funny and great people. Of course, we can't forget about Microsoft Ignite, and next month, November 18th to 22nd, it is both hybrid as well as in person in Chicago. Caruana, Heather, Adam Harms and Jeff Pieper, they're all going to be there, as well as many, many other Microsoft folks. And they're going to be going across Microsoft in terms of different updates to all the different product spaces. And then just for a teaser for next month, Josh Leperati and I are going to come up back on to talk about a Microsoft Ignite recap for you all in the Champions community. And then last but not least, December 2nd to 5th, we have a European SharePoint conference in Stockholm, Sweden. It's going to be great. Caruana, Heather, Mark, and others are going to be there and going to be able to meet you all. And I believe Jeff Pieper as well. He's going to be one of the main people there as well for the keynotes. So definitely, if you're in the European region, if you're thinking about European holiday over the winter time, make sure to check out the European SharePoint conference. Alrighty, next, this is our open discussion. So if you wanted to come on and ask us your questions, either Mark or Nate for those list questions, or us in the champions community, really anything you would like, feel free to come on and speak to us live, or you can come ask your questions and drop that in our event page here. Great. And then last but not least, I wanted to remind you all that our next call is going to be November 26th. It's going to be about the Microsoft Ignite recap. I would like to invite you all to share your feedback on our call today and going forward, what you'd like to see. So this is going to be at aka.ms/Microsoft 365 Champions Call feedback. Of course, you can join us at the Driving Adoption community. And if you wanted to see today's slides, as well as where you can get a whole list of today's recording, as well as previous recordings, you can also invite your colleagues to join us to become a champion at aka.ms/M365 champions. All right. We do have one question from Mel. How do we keep record of the approval? So I think that's a Mark question.
I'm going to let Nate start with that one, because I think we have a great thing that he actually demoed a little bit, but to know a little bit about what's happening behind.
Yeah, so once you go in and try it out, there's a couple of extra fields other than the approval status that you'll see where you can see kind of the stamped who's responded and then who were the allowed approvers for each individual item. So that'll get updated and match exactly what you see in Teams. Hopefully that answers, Mark. You can add more there too.
No, I just was going to say the basis and the foundation of the SharePoint platform is really to give you a great place to work together and collaborate. Obviously, the integration with other applications has always been core to the SharePoint platform, but a big part of it is to be able to track and manage what has happened and who has done different activities not necessarily to be an audit trail that you always want to turn to, but when you need to know a little bit around the history of a file, the history of a list, the history of a site or a page, it's all being tracked because we want to, have you have control over who has access to your pages, who last took an action, like maybe was a co-author or a publisher, and even to the point where we're starting to see some of that in real time, where you can see where people are in the list, where people are within your site if you're co-authoring a SharePoint news article or page. And the basis of that is to be able to track and manage who does what and have a trail so that you can see the history of the actions and activities, to the benefit of maybe knowing who to reach out to, or sometimes to know, when something changed, who did that, and maybe reach out to them and reset some different business processes off of that.
Cool. So
All
next
right.
question from Yin Hong. How can we restrict users' access to the list data via the Power App interface?
Yeah, I will admit I'm not super deep on Power Apps. I certainly know it from when you connect a Power App to a list. There's a little bit of by design obfuscation when you build your Power App. You're basically building the user interface that you want people to interact with for your list. So if they have access to the Power App and the Power App has access to the list, then you've created a nice custom solution that hopefully achieves what you're looking for, not only to minimize who can access what, but it gives them that canvas that maybe you couldn't build natively in lists and is maybe not something you wanted to build fully custom from a user interface perspective. That being said, you do have to manage and monitor the who has access to what. So in this case, who has access to the Power App, you mostly give them that capability, either through the web or through a mobile app in the way that you deploy. But also you can manage and configure who has access to your base list that the Power App is connected to. And it is oftentimes a best practice to have those match so that you don't hit some issues where people open up the Power App but can't use the list, and vice versa, can't maybe take some read or write activities back to the list. But that being said, it's okay if they are different as long as you're managing the user experience on top of the user interface, layered with however you want to manage your permissions. But anytime permissions are different, you will oftentimes get into a state where there may be some common FAQs that you need to publish, or some usability things that you need to let your users know about what they can and can't do.
All right. We have one more from Agnes. Any plans for additional list template? And then I believe Nate, you got this one.
Yeah, so I'll say short answer is yes. But I think right now, we're looking at kind of what is highly used in terms of what's getting created, and then kind of actively retained from customers, and thinking about what other features we can add to make those list templates not only cover more scenarios, but more powerful. And then another angle to the question is also building custom org templates. And kind of a little known feature that I really like is you can actually package custom flow solutions into those org templates and then make them easily deployable across your tenant. So yes, looking to add more, nothing super concrete to add right now, but we're thinking about what are some of those features we can add and scenarios that would make sense in templates.
Can I add one quick thing? I have as one of my favorite list templates is actually a Teams template. And what I mean by that is some of the work that the team has done. If you're in Microsoft Teams and you create a new team and you use the project management template, it's kind of an Uber template that creates a template that's a really nice experience in Teams. It pre-configures a lot of your channels and some of the ways that you would configure Teams for project management. But it also spins up a unique list within the connected SharePoint site that leverages some of what we term, for project management, and how you might leverage a list to support your project management effort. So the Teams template creates a SharePoint template that creates and uses the list template, which is a big time saver. And it also, I think, gets into what Nate was talking about in terms of that connective tissue between some of these areas where, we want you to spend less time configuring and creating what you need, and building off of what we see people commonly do so that you can get started much more quickly and maybe remove some of the barrier entry of actually knowing how to create some of these things. Always a trick question, which is recurring events. It is a top of mind thing in some of the work that the team is doing, actually in the form space, where they're working on the cascading items. So right now in calendar view, if you have something that is a recurring meeting or a recurring entry into your list, you can't set it to be something that then shows up and is a list item for October, November, December, however you might have it. But some of the work in terms of having some intelligence between choices that you make in a list form to then infer something that then does or does not show is some area of investigation where they're looking at how can they have recurring items so that when you create something as a new list item, to have that then translate into something that might show up and appear as distinct new list items that inherit some of that knowledge or things that you already filled out. Right now, the other thing I think that we like to just be clear about with the list calendar view, it is just a view, a very useful view, especially if you use the list web part, where you can put the view of your list as a calendar on your SharePoint page in the context of what it is you're trying to promote. But the reminder is it's not a calendar like you would expect in Outlook, or if you work with Exchange across group calendars or individual calendars. So it's not something that you can subscribe to and have in Outlook. We know that is a pain point, but wanting to be clear about that. And it also isn't built off the same intelligence as the Exchange backend. So some of the things that people layer in as common activities for what people do with meetings don't always follow through to what you can do with lists. And that's a known issue in terms of perception and also some of what the team is working on to make it less of an issue, but more of something that you can take advantage of in the future. But nothing to announce now, but hopefully the clarity of what is a real calendar versus what is a calendar view.
Alrighty, I think that was our last question today. So thank you so much, Mark and Nate, for coming on and indulging us with your list connoisseur and all your knowledge in lists. We really appreciate it. And again, it was highly requested. So champions are very lucky to have you two today.
Well, thank you, champions, for requesting, and hope you got what you were looking for, especially seeing what Nate was showing. That's really right around the corner, and I think you will take high advantage of it because it puts the value in lists of something anybody can get their hands on and really get a lot of value out of it.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much. Let's bring up that last slide again, just as a quick reminder, and then we can close out. Alrighty, so yes, the slide I just showed earlier. Make sure you share your feedback here with us at Microsoft 365 Champions Call Feedback. Make sure to join us at the Driving Adoption community, where you can ask us, as well as your colleagues or anyone out there in the Champions community, questions. And of course, you can invite anyone else to be champion and get our dedicated resources, such as today's PowerPoint, as well as previous calls links. So make sure you join us for our next call, November 26th. We're going to be going over the Microsoft Ignite recap. Again, thank you all, Aaron, Nate, Mark, Jesse, for coming on and sharing with us about all about Microsoft Lists and what's going on in the Microsoft space. Pro tip, if you ever see Mark in person, ask him to tell you a dad joke. He has plenty of those. All right. Thank you all for joining us today. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks.